Everything we discuss will be timestamped in the description below. So I really want to get a good discussion going about every class and what everybody thinks they need to change. I'm going to get into what I think needs to change for every class, you know, from their perks, do they need different weapon varieties, different things like that, as well as just overall tweaks to the game that would be nice as well. So thanks for checking out the video, guys, and let's get straight into it. For our assault, basically we all know he struggles with contested health, so I think the best way, well, the coolest way for them to fix that would be to tie it to your jump pack so that when you take off with your jump pack, your contested health suspends, so it stays where it's at whenever you take off. And then when you ground pound, they have to add it to where your ground pound damage gives you back contested health, which I think that is necessary anyway. The damage part should give you back contested health anyway. And then we have for their perks. Now, some of them, like this one is very strong, and you really have to take this one on lethal. So I would really like to see them switch this perk with this perk so you could still take these two damage perks and not have to sacrifice your damage for this armor, because you're already having, you know, you should really have a lot of damage perks that are available to you without having to sacrifice this one right here. So if they switch these two perks, that would be good. Also, this perk right here, you know what, it's melee attacks, enemies take 10% more damage for 3 seconds, and I think it's from all your teammates, so this one is pretty good actually. I think their team perks are good, because this is strong right here, 50%, and then if you wanted to go ability, you could go 10% faster. Also, this tree right here is, that one's decent. This one's decent. Anything with the perfectly timed dodge using a jump pack dash, I just don't like it. I think, you know, using your jetpack or your jump pack to try to dodge things is just not, it's not efficient, and it's a waste of a ground pound that is like the most important thing of your whole class. So I don't like anything that is doing with the jump pack dash unless they rework that somehow. And his signature perks, I don't like any of his signature perks. He has, I think, the worst signature perks in the entire game. None of them really are powerful and meaningful, and especially you're getting this at level 25 is insane to me. So all the signature perks I think need to be reworked somehow. For the tactical, I think his perk tree is already great. The only thing I really want to see change with him is I wanted them to open up more pistol options, and also I want them to throw the combat knife on the tactical. So if those two things are not lore related, that's something I would like to see. I think he definitely should have access to the plasma pistol, and you know, I wouldn't mind seeing him have the plasma pistol, the Volkite, and the combat knife, you know, over time. Just, you know, throughout the game's longevity, I wouldn't mind seeing them open up those weapons for the tactical. And like I said, for his perks, I'm not even really going to get into them. I'm sure he has some that are, you know, that maybe need some tweaking here and there, but honestly, he is very, very good where he's sitting right now. Alright, when it comes to the Vanguard, he is actually sitting in a very, very good place. Extremely powerful perks. His problem kind of is build diversity. Like, and I think it's really coming from that some of his perks are so strong that the other perks, you just don't ever want to take them. So basically, they're going to have to buff some of his other perks up, you know, just however they want to do it to make them more in line with some of his, you know, his core perks that everybody, I'm sure, is taking. Like, you know, what I'm saying, perfect parry window increased by 50%. I mean, you're crazy if you're not taking that. It's so strong in the game. So that's what I think his thing is. Like, his build that he has is extremely powerful, but he lacks the versatility because his other builds just, they fail in comparison big time to like his main good build, you know? So I think that's really what they need to do. Go in and tweak some of his other perks and make them stronger to make the option to switch up builds with this class. So like I said though, overall, like, his build that he has is very strong, and it's a good build, and I enjoy it a lot. But if you want some versatility to the class, you have to go in and really make some of these more appealing. For one thing, I would take Duelist out completely and add it as this right here. I understand, I would add it, like, I would add it on top of that. I would still keep contested health regenerates 50% faster, and I would also have, you know, perfect parry window increased by 50%, just because nobody is ever really not going to pick this perk. Like, I understand, and some of these perks are really, really good. Like this one I wouldn't mind taking right here. You know, armor is fully depleted, you take 15% less health damage. But I mean, do you really want to sacrifice that awesome, perfect parry window. And then this makes it to where you can actually take a balanced weapon and not feel completely underpowered with it. So, you know, this has to be moved into here somehow, I think. And they need a whole new perk right here. Even if it's not a strong one, whatever, just give you an option to switch this up a little bit. And yeah, like I said, that's all they really need, is keep the perks you got, but kind of tweak them to make them a little more powerful and more appealing to the build that is superior to most other builds. I'm going to start right here with auxiliary ammunition. Now, the thing I don't like about this perk is that you have to kill 10 enemies in rapid succession, and this is when you do not have ammo in your primary weapon. So that could be a problem. You know, if you have a nade or something, it's a lot easier. But, you know, I wish they would change somehow how that works, even if they increase the cooldown a little bit, just to make it a little easier to gain back your ammunition, just because, you know, that's all you have. You have no melee options. So for strategic stand, now for this one right here, it's 15% more contested health is really not that noticeable when you're already gaining back so much contested health with most of your weapons. Most of the hits with the heavy's weapons gain him a lot of contested health back. So that's why I'm not a fan of this one, especially for where it is on the perk tree and how hard you have to work to get to it. So for this one right here, I think what they should do to this one is they leave it the same. Damage restores 15% more contested health, but it also increases your movement speed by 15% when you're in heavy stance. So on top of the contested health giving you 15%, you will also move 15% faster in heavy stance, and I think this would be a very good perk then. And, you know, I don't think it would be overpowered or anything if you're only moving 15% faster, or whatever they thought wasn't too overpowered, but I think that would be a good number. And then, yeah, these are really good, both of those. And then this one, I'm just not a big fan of this, but I get it. It's early in the perk tree, so I'm not going to hate on that. I don't mind. For these three, I think he's good. This perk in general, I just find it to be a lazy perk right here, that they just threw on all the classes kind of, and I'm not a big fan of this one either. But Emperor's Protection. Now, the thing about this is you do have to expend all of its energy instead of deactivate. So I wish they would change the expend all of its energy to a deactivating one and then put a cooldown timer on it. Because if you could just deactivate and reactivate, you know, this would be way too OP. You can get an armor segment every, like, what, 4 or 5 seconds if you're just deactivating, reactivating, deactivating. So I think the best way they could go about it is to add a cooldown timer onto this one. I don't really know what a good cooldown timer would be on this, but put it on there and make this deactivate and activate instead. And, you know, every time you deactivate, you get a armor segment, just like how this one works. So then it would be a lot of fun to use this, and it would help your teammates out a lot as well. And then these three are fine right here. This one I also think should be a deactivate and activate, even if they just had to, instead of saying take significant damage, they just take damage and it's just not as strong. I think that would be a very, very cool one to have when you can, you know, when you're using your barrier and you're activating it and deactivating it quickly, and then you could really just do damage with your barrier to close enemies and use it that way. And even if it had like a small knockback, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, that one could be very, very strong as well. So that would be cool if they reworked that one. What do we got on these two? But, you know, these ones are fine right here. This is what I usually read. That's a good one. Okay, and then coolant reserve. This one is basically worthless. Your squad members, they both have to be incapacitated for your primary weapon will not overheat. I mean, it's just so situational. You never even want it to come to that anyway, and it doesn't happen that often, and they're usually not down for long enough. I get it. It will make you extremely strong if your gun's not overheating. Well, it kind of will, because if you're using your overheat properly and staying above 50% and just dropping it that way, you're actually doing your, you know, getting your damage multiplier. So I don't even know if it would be stronger if you're just staying low. So, you know, they need to change that one, because that's not even worth it. This one, you know, since it's your first one, I'm not going to complain about the first line of perks, just because they're, you know, I get it. It's very early in the game. And then, you know, this one is actually very strong as long as you're lining it up with your teammates properly and stuff like that. It's the fastest ability charge that you can put on your teammates in the game. So if you're using your barrier in a good way, you can really help your Bulwark and different things like that get their perks back. So yeah, overall, that's what I wouldn't mind seeing just change over time. You know, this isn't like, oh yeah, I want this next patch or something. I'm just saying over time, just well, patch here, change a perk here, whatever. Over time, I wouldn't mind seeing these changes to the heavy class. And like I said, I think it would make him more in balance with some of the higher tier characters in the game as well. The Bulwark is another one that I really, yeah, I basically think he is sitting pretty nice in the game right now, perk-wise. Weapon-wise, yeah, I don't know. I don't really think there's really much they could add right now to the Bulwark. Like I said, I just wish they would increase the damage of melee overall in the game, and then maybe, increase the damage of these Power Fists somewhat to make them a more viable option on the class. But other than that, the Bulwark is very strong, guys. I really am not finding many flaws with him. His perks, he has a lot of different setups. See, this is like the example of what I want for every single class in the game, basically, is like what the Bulwark has and what the Sniper has. They have very, very diverse build setups that unlock, mass potentials in different aspects of the game, depending how you want to play. And that's what's going to make everything fun. So I really do think, like, the Bulwark is sitting at a fantastic place right now. I think the Sniper is sitting at a fantastic place right now, perk tree wise, gun wise, everything. I think everything is on point with him. I don't think he needs much work. And then heavy, yeah, we already talked about heavy. So yeah, when it comes to the Bulwark and the Sniper, man, I really think they are in a good place and not much needs to be changed. How loadouts need to work is it needs to reset every single thing on the weapon and everything in your perk tree. So this loadout, loadout 2, I could still have the Neo-Volkite in there, but I could have a Neo-Volkite that has a whole different perk tree on it. So even if you're using the same weapon, the loadouts are still valuable to you because you go there, you switch, and not only will it be switching your Volkite perks if you have Volkite on all of your loadouts, but then also it'll be switching your class perks as well. So maybe you want to be more defensive in a part of the map, so loadout 2 will be your defensive perk tree. You know what I'm saying? And then, loadout 1 will be your more damage, or, however you want to set it up. So I think if they just completely reset everything for each character's loadout, that would be, that is like my dream way of having the loadouts work in this game. So I think that's one of the better ideas, how I think they should go about it. I don't know if it's like an easy development thing or whatever, but if it worked that way, I would really enjoy that aspect of the game. When it comes to the melee weapons, it's basically pretty simple. I think they just need a damage increase across the board for every single weapon, not just these 3 right here. But yeah, they're just too weak right now. They're taking too long to kill miners in lethal. It really doesn't make sense sometimes. So that's, the best thing they could do. So eventually, hopefully they do that. And also contested health, I think, could be reworked a little bit with these things just to make it a little more of an option to go to for contested health. Because right now, I usually just go to my pistol over most of the weapons, even with the 100% perks that give you contested health back. It's usually not enough in lethal to get you anything. So I think maybe they should just add a multiplier onto the contested health that the melee weapons give you, like a 1.3 or 1.5% multiplier onto that. And then, the weapons that do have those perks will just benefit from being even stronger from the 100% that they get on top of that. So that is the 2 main points for me when it comes to melee weapons. Like I said, I'm still enjoying melee in the game. It's still a ton of fun. But if I'm really just being critical and looking at things, those are the 2 points that I would like to see improve in the game, and I think it would make it a lot more fun to use the melee options. For blocking weapons, we really don't have to spend too long on it because they are already fixing this problem. So I'm assuming with the next major patch, that is when they are going to implement whatever route they decided to take. I really wish they would have told us in advance what route they went with. I'm sure they looked at feedback and then just kind of went off there. So, earlier I've seen somebody suggest, maybe just raise the damage up. They would have to raise it substantially to make it valuable in lethal, because not having the parry is very, very difficult to get past. So If they don't raise it up enough, then I think it's just still going to struggle. So they will either have to raise up the damage a lot, like he said, or they will have to add some way that you can get a gun strike off of the blocking weapon and just make it harder to do.